She was young. 19. 6 months pregnant. Full of life. And then, she was gone. No warnings. No goodbyes. Just silence. Her name was Mischa Johnson. A wife. A mother-to-be. A future ahead of her. But on the night of July 31st, 2024, that future vanished with her. Her phone, silent. Her social media, untouched. Her family, waiting for a call that would never come. At first, no one knew what to think. A missing persons report was filed. Questions were asked. A husband, an army soldier, told police he had no idea where she was. But behind the scenes, something darker was lurking. Something far more disturbing, or so it seemed. Investigators would uncover contradictions. Strange behaviors. Pieces that didn't fit. And then charges. Murder. The intentional killing of an unborn child. And yet, one question remains. The only question that matters. Where is Mischa Johnson? And why isn't her husband talking? Then the sound of a jail cell slamming shut. This is only the beginning. Mischa Johnson was 19 years old. A wife. A daughter. A mother-to-be. She wasn't famous. She didn't make headlines while she was alive. But in the quiet corners of her world, she was everything to the people who loved her. She had plans, dreams. A baby on the way. A future she had carefully imagined. But a future only exists if you live to see it. Mischa had met Dewayne Johnson when they were both just teenagers. He was a soldier. Disciplined. Steady. The kind of man you trust to stand beside you to protect you. They married young. Some called it love. Others called it rushed. But no one questioned it, at least not at first. From the outside, everything seemed fine. But the thing about appearances is that they only show what they're meant to. The cracks, the whispers, the moments behind closed doors, those are the details no one sees. And by the time they do, it's already too late. The last time anyone saw Mischa Johnson alive was the night of July 31st, 2024. She was at Schofield Barracks, a military base, a place meant to be safe. There was no fight, no struggle, no sign that anything was wrong. But by the next morning, she was gone. No one saw her leave. No cameras caught her walking away. No messages explaining where she had gone. It was as if she had simply disappeared. But people don't just vanish without a trace. Someone always knows something. And in this case, that someone was her husband. But what he told investigators, and what the evidence would later reveal, were two very different things. And that was only the beginning. August 1st, 2024. The world kept moving. People woke up. They went to work. Life went on, just as it always had. But for Mischa Johnson's family, something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Her phone? Silent. No texts. No calls. No social media posts. Mischa had never gone a day without checking in. Not with her mother. Not with her sister. Not with her friends. And yet, for the first time, nothing. At first, they told themselves there had to be a reason. Maybe her phone was dead. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she just needed time to herself. But hours passed. Then a day. Then two. And with each moment of silence, one thought crept in, slow and unwelcome. Something had happened to her. Panic set in. Calls were made. Messages left. But there was only one person who should have had answers. Her husband. Dewayne Johnson. When family members finally reached him, they expected concern. Worry. Fear. Instead, they got something else. Indifference. Dewayne was calm. Too calm. He told them he hadn't seen her. That she'd probably just gone out. That she'd be back soon. But she didn't come back. And when the questions kept coming, his answers stayed the same. I don't know where she is. She left. She's fine. He didn't search for her. He didn't call the police. He didn't even seem worried. But Mischa's family? They knew better. They knew this wasn't right. And the longer she stayed missing, the more the fear took hold. It was time to call the police. Within hours, the Army's Criminal Investigation Division was involved. So was the Honolulu Police Department. Military bases don't just ignore missing soldiers' spouses. And when law enforcement started looking into Mischa's last known moments, the first person they questioned was Dewayne Johnson. He told them exactly what he had told her family. That she left. That she was fine. That he had no idea where she went. And yet, something wasn't adding up. A young, pregnant woman doesn't just walk away from her life. From her family. From her unborn child. And if she did, why wasn't her husband the least bit worried? The Army had their suspicions. The police had their doubts. And Mischa's family? They already knew the truth. Mischa Johnson was not coming back. But if she was gone, where was she? For days, investigators pressed for answers. They combed through phone records, surveillance footage, and statements from those closest to Mischa Johnson. But the one person who should have had the most to say was saying very little. Dewayne Johnson sat across from detectives, his hands folded neatly in front of him. His voice steady. His words measured. Mischa left. She needed space. She was coming back. That was his story. But there was just one problem. It kept changing. At first, he claimed she walked out after an argument, that she wanted time alone. Then, when asked again, he said she had been planning to leave for weeks. By the third time, his answer was different still. Detectives weren't just listening to what he was saying. They were listening to what he wasn't. The hesitations, the inconsistencies, the gaps in his timeline that he couldn't, or wouldn't, explain. And then something else happened. They caught him in a lie. A small one at first. A detail that didn't match. A timestamp that didn't align. But that small lie unraveled into something much bigger. Dewayne Johnson wasn't just avoiding questions. He was obstructing an investigation. And when investigators dug deeper, they found something worse. Mischa and Dewayne's relationship wasn't as picture-perfect as it seemed. Friends had seen the tension, the arguments, the way she would go quiet in his presence. There were rumors, whispers of control, of fear. And in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, something had changed. Mischa confided in someone close to her. She spoke about Dewayne differently. She had plans to leave. But before she could, she was gone. And now, so was Dewayne's carefully constructed story. August 7, 2024. 1 week after Mischa Johnson was last seen, Dewayne Johnson was taken into custody. The charge? Murder. But without a body, could they prove it? August 7, 2024. Dewayne Johnson is led from his home in handcuffs. Cameras flash. Reporters shout his name. But he doesn't say a word. To the world, he is now a suspect. To Mischa Johnson's family, he always was. Hours later, the charges are made public. And they are devastating. First-degree murder. Prosecutors say Dewayne Johnson didn't just kill his wife. He planned it. He executed it. And then he lied. But the horror doesn't end there. Because Mischa wasn't alone. She was 6 months pregnant. And that means the second charge is even more unthinkable. Intentional killing of an unborn child. This wasn't just the murder of a young woman. This was the destruction of an entire future. But the list of charges doesn't stop there. As investigators dig deeper into Dewayne Johnson's past, they uncover something else. Something buried. Something unrelated to Mischa's disappearance. But just as disturbing. Obstruction of justice. Tampering with evidence. Destroying potential leads. Anything to keep the truth from coming out. And then, the final charge. Possession of child pornography. It was an accusation no one saw coming. And now, the case against Dewayne Johnson has taken a turn no one expected. What began as the search for a missing woman has unraveled into something far darker. And as the military court prepares to prosecute, one thing becomes clear. Dewayne Johnson isn't just fighting for his innocence. He's fighting for his life. But is the evidence enough to convict him? A man is in custody. The charges are severe. The evidence is mounting. But one question remains. Where is Mischa Johnson? Days pass. Then weeks. Then months. Investigators have theories. Prosecutors have a case. But what they don't have is a body. For Mischa's family, this is not closure. This is not justice. This is a nightmare without an end. They refuse to stop searching. They refuse to believe she is simply gone. Every day, her mother wakes up and checks her phone, hoping for news. Hoping for something, anything, that will bring her daughter home. But there is only silence. Detectives comb through records, security footage, GPS data. They retrace Dewayne Johnson's movements in the hours after Mischa was last seen. Every step. Every location. Every possibility. But nothing leads to her. The army makes a rare and desperate move. They turn to the public. August 15, 2024. Military officials release a statement. If you saw anything at all, come forward. They need help. A tip. A lead. Something to tell them where to look. Because there is one terrifying possibility that no one wants to say out loud. What if Mischa Johnson's body is still on base? Schofield Barracks is massive. Thousands of acres of land secured, restricted to the public. There are places there no one goes. Places no one would think to look. Could Dewayne Johnson have hidden her remains in a place only he knew? Or did someone help him? The thought is unbearable. But so is the alternative. Because if he didn't bury her there, then where is she? And what if she's never found? Mischa Johnson's story is horrifying. A young woman, 6 months pregnant, vanishes. Her husband, a soldier, is charged with her murder. But there is something even more unsettling about this case. Because Mischa is not the first. Across military bases, across decades, across different branches of service, this has happened before. December 2007. Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. A young Marine named Maria Lauterbach is reported missing. She is 20 years old, pregnant, and just like Mischa, she is never seen alive again. Her disappearance is brushed aside at first. Officials suggest she ran away, that she left voluntarily. But her mother refuses to believe it. Weeks pass. Then, a break in the case. Investigators find something buried in the backyard of Corporal Caesar Lorien, a fellow Marine. A shallow grave. A charred body. DNA confirms it. It's Maria. Her skull was fractured. She was set on fire. She was supposed to be safe, protected, respected as a fellow Marine. Instead, she was silenced. Fast forward. April 2020. Fort Hood, Texas. Army Specialist Vanessa Guillén, 20 years old. She tells her family something is wrong. That she's being harassed. That she's afraid. Then, she vanishes. For 2 months, the Army insists they have no answers. No signs of foul play. But Vanessa's family knows better. They demand the truth. They demand action. And then, someone talks. A suspect leads investigators to a remote site near the Leon River. A shallow grave. Burned remains. Concrete poured over them in an attempt to hide the evidence. It's Vanessa. Maria Lauterbach. Vanessa Guillén. And now, Mischa Johnson. All military women. All young. All taken before their time. All with one thing in common. The system that was supposed to protect them, failed them. So now the question is no longer just about Mischa. Now the question is bigger. How many more? And who is next? A trial will happen. Evidence will be presented. A verdict will be reached. But will that be justice? Because Mischa Johnson is still missing. And for her family, the case isn't over. Every day they wake up with the same question. Where is she? They refuse to stop searching. They refuse to let this become another forgotten case. Because justice isn't just about a courtroom. It's about answers. And they don't have them yet. They hold on to hope. Hope that someone somewhere knows something. That the truth will come out. That one day, Mischa will come home. But now the question is for you. What do you think happened to Mischa? Was there more to this story than we know? Did the system fail her? And most importantly, will she ever be found? Let's talk about it in the comments. Because cases like this deserve to be heard. If you want to stay updated on Mischa's case, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. We'll be following this story until the very end. Because justice doesn't stop when the headlines fade.